Hi, I'm Liz,
And I'm Michael.
and we are the parents of a young adult male child who was diagnosed with ARFID 3 years ago, and we have been on quite a journey.
Absolutely. One of the questions that people often ask us is, how do you navigate recovery when recovery is not linear? And well, I think there are two or three things to think about. The first one is it requires a lot of patience. Eating disorders, in our experience, and our son has had it for 3 years, isn't necessarily about over, or if it is about over, we haven't gotten there quite yet. And so it's important to realize that you're in a longer race, a marathon, not a sprint. The second thing is, it's inevitable that with recovery involving some setbacks and progress, that there'll be times when you doubt about whether you've gotten anywhere or your child or your loved one has gotten any better. And I would encourage you to look for signs of progress each time there's a little bit of a setback. Are the relapses shorter or less severe? Is your loved one able to use the tools that they're learning and the resources to right themselves, or right themselves with less intervention from you? And happily for us, that's been our experience so far over the past 3 years. And then the third and last one is that you need to flex your style. What works in the moment of crisis is not necessarily the optimal thing to do when you're in a more chronic state. And so you need to be aware of how your loved one's developing and how you need to support them in different ways at different phases.
I agree with all those things, and also that there's no shame in the eating disorder journey. It's no one's fault. No one did this on purpose, and no one wants to be afflicted with this illness. It's very challenging. It's very difficult, especially because it has a mental health component which impacts physical health. So it's complex and it's hard to find help, which leads us to the second area that we'd like to address, which is, what are the top 3 things that we suggest to help families who have a child with an eating disorder? For me, the first is finding the right help, not just for the child, but also for you as parents and also you as a family. And this is not easy. This was the most challenging part of our journey, was actually getting the right help. And that's where NITA comes in. NITA is your resource to finding good help. Unfortunately, there are not enough clinicians to go around who are experts in this area, particularly in our case, who can identify, diagnose, and deal with a male child with an eating disorder. So it has been extremely challenging, and you always have to learn to be an advocate for your child. We were always under the philosophy that the doctor knows best. And unfortunately, what we learned through this journey is that the doctors really didn't know best, and that we as his parents did know best. And this was part of our journey in therapy, was to learn how to advocate for our child. So finding help for your child, for you as parents, and for you as a family. The second thing I would say is accept what you don't know and what you can't understand, because this is not your journey. It's your child's journey. You're just on the ride. But there's a lot of things about eating disorders that are complicated that your child might not even be able to express themselves. So you really have to accept what you don't know and what you don't understand, and just listen. And the last for me is finding your patience. Not easy. Can't tell you how many people have said, why don't you just cook him food that he likes and then he'll eat? Well, if it was that easy, we would have fixed this a long time ago. And the last thing is communication. Eating disorders are shrouded in secrecy, both with your child, within the family, and also within your community. And one of the things we've had to learn is, through therapy, how to better communicate with our child, how to better communicate with each other, and also to bring our community into this struggle because we needed support. It's not easy to admit that you have a big problem in your family, particularly in our case where we almost lost our child to this illness. And we needed help. We needed the support of our friends and our loved ones and our colleagues because it impacts every area of our lives. So patience and communication.
I would just add two other things really quickly. One is each of you in your family will need to look within and think about how you might change or should change or could change given what you and your family and your loved one are going through. You all got to this place together, and it's not about blame, but it can be about an opportunity to change the way that certain aspects of your family operates or your relationships exist. It's worth reflecting on that. And then also, don't blame anyone. This is not anybody's fault. Nobody wanted this. Nobody intentionally created this. And you need to continue to love each other. And you also need to give yourself permission to be sad about or grieve for the way that this may change your family. It's fine that it changes, but it can be hard to acknowledge and accept that. It's okay to grieve that, and it's an important part of the process of figuring out how to make your family stronger on the other side of this.
For example, holidays. Holidays, for the most part in our country, are eating holidays. Thanksgiving, birthdays. Very complicated when you cannot put a birthday cake in front of your child because it's triggering. Or you can't spend all day cooking Thanksgiving dinner and have it be successful. You have to come up with more creative ways to think about how celebrations look in your family. And it's okay to be really sad about the fact that you can't do things the way you did them growing up or the way you did things for your child growing up. But at the end of the day, if you're flexible and you communicate with your child, you can actually come up with some new traditions that work for your family, in which case everything's better because your child is happier. And happier children are happier parents. The last thing is how to make sure you get support for both the parents and the child as you navigate this journey. And again, it all comes back to therapy and finding the right people. And we've been through a lot of them in this journey. Finding it's all about the chemistry and finding the right fit. Because what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person. And like I said earlier in this video, advocacy, learning how to advocate for your child is something we had to work really hard on. And I think we've been successful after we learned new skills on how to do that.
Yeah, I would just, we've already done one of the things we'd recommend, which is you've gotten in touch with NIDA. You've looked to educate yourselves, to share, your story, to seek the story of others. That's a really valuable one. We talked about the team. I've found therapy to be incredibly helpful in this process for me personally, for us as a couple, and obviously our child developed this while he was still a minor, so family therapy as well. And then just to highlight one thing Liz said before is, avoid secrecy. Sometimes some people are more willing to share with their friends what is going on, the things that are going on in their lives that are of a personal nature. Sometimes I find women do a better job of that than men do. I can't tell you how many times when I've shared my story, I've had another dad tell me, oh, my daughter or son had an eating disorder. And that connection was incredibly meaningful and valuable for not just for me, but I think also for them. So that secrecy can be incredibly corrosive, and being open about what you're going through with those people that you feel comfortable doing with it can really help.
Yeah, you're not alone.
No.
There are lots of people out there who want to help you. We are happy to be those people if you have a child with ARFID and you need resource, please reach out to NITA. If you want to speak to us, they will connect you with us. We are happy to be a resource. We feel very strongly that part of our responsibility in having a child who has navigated ARFID and who is 100% engaged in his recovery without shame, that it is our responsibility to help others. So anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out, and you're not alone.
Not alone. Thanks. Good luck.
Good luck.